Recognizing Palestine was not an easy step for small Slovenia, but nevertheless, I would say finally we did recognize it. I will be proud when I finish my presidency in 3 years and a half that Slovenia was, I'm pretty sure, on the right side of the history.
Taking center stage today is Madame President Natasa Pirc Musar, the trailblazing leader of Slovenia who became the country's first female president and did it without the backing of a political party. She's had a diverse career as an attorney, journalist, and former information commissioner. A staunch advocate for human rights, President Pirc Musar talks about Slovenia's recent recognition of Palestine and why a reform of the UN Security Council is highly needed. Madame President Natasa Pirc Musar, welcome to Center Stage.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Me more, knowing that you were a journalist before, who worked on daily news for almost a decade, and then now you're a president. How does one do that? Of course, out of curiosity, not personal career interest.
How does one switch the job from journalism to being a president? Yeah. I have no idea. That's actually quite a hard question. You know, I have to tell you something. I never was in politics. I never was a member of any political party. And one of the professors from Slovenia once said to me that I'm a psychological phenomenon because I won the elections without the support of any political party. But I must have done something right in my previous life, and journalism was, of course, a huge added value. I'm not camera shy. I know how to talk. I hope I talk smart. So that's it.
Allow me to say that you had the support of a very interesting party.
Oh, yes.
The Pirate Party of Slovenia.
There is a reason for that. I used to be the information commissioner of the Republic of Slovenia dealing with data protection and access to public information. And of course, the development of modern technologies was close to my heart, and pirates are following this. And yes, when I decided to run for a president, they offered me help because we were, cooperating before, dealing with legislation, how to regulate modern technologies. But they are not a parliamentary party, so they're really, pirates.
Yeah. You had a big role in the access to public information.
Yes.
Do you regret that now that you're the president?
No regrets. Whatever I do in my life, I do it with passion. And every single job that I had in my past is helping me now being a good president, a better president. Being a lawyer is useful. Being a journalist is useful. So everything is an added value. But now I just, have to learn again a lot. The most difficult part for me being a president is how to use a diplomatic language. Because as a journalist, I was always straightforward. As the information commissioner, I was a kind of an NGO discussing human rights, fighting for human rights. But being a president, every single word counts, and it's really very difficult. And there is one saying, which is always in the back of my brain, that the diplomatic language is the language when the diplomat is going to send you to hell, you would love to go to hell. So it's not easy.
We are gathered here today in the commemoration of the Srebrenica massacre, almost 30 years ago, and you actually cut your own personal holiday to be here today. Why? What does it mean to be here today?
The topics which are close to my heart, I never feel sorry to offer them time. I strongly believe that humanity is dying miserably in front of our eyes. And if we are going to be quiet, nothing will change. One of my mottos in my life is also, if you do nothing, nothing will change. If you do something, you give the opportunity to the people, to situations, that something will change. And whenever I think about dying of humanity, I feel an enormously big obligation and responsibility, especially now being a president. Let me just give you a couple of numbers. Do you know how many countries are in the world? 206. There are 206 countries in the Olympic Committee. If we take 206 into account, that means that we do have 206 prime ministers, 206 presidents, and some royal families in monarchies. Yeah? That means 412 people who have the responsibility for 8 billion people on this planet. Are we aware of this obligation? Some of us are. I hope I am. I'm not coming from an economically or geographically big country, but Slovenia is a country with no hidden agendas. And I want to be a president with no hidden agendas, that I want to defend the rule of law, humanitarian law, international law, with all my soul and heart that I do possess. And this is why I'm here today, and this is why I try to be vocal about the things. And maybe, if you allow me, I would like to tell you one sentence which is guiding me through my presidency. What is the difference between a statesman or a stateswoman and a politician? A politician will work the way to win the next election. A statesman and a statewoman is going to work for the next generations. And what we are seeing today in this crazy, cruel world, that there are no statesmen and statewomen, I mean, few of them. Did anybody imagine after the Second World War that France and Germany would sit together under the same table and be in the founding countries of the European Union? But they did it because we had Schuman, Monnet, Adenauer. Those were the statesmen which were looking into the future. I see the lack of such people in the world right now. There should be more people like that to see 2 steps ahead, not only 1 or half a step ahead.
Part of this leadership and setting an example to the world, Slovenia recognized the state of Palestine less than a month ago. There was a process, of course. Can you take us through the process? Was it easy? Did you get pressured not to take this step?
Of course, there were pressures. I mean,
By whom?
let us be not naive. I mean, the world is divided also in this topic. I mean, recognizing Palestine was not an easy step for small Slovenia. But nevertheless, I would say, finally, we did recognize it. And I think it was, the right step. I will be proud when I finish my presidency in 3 years and a half, that Slovenia was, I'm pretty sure, on the right side of the history. This is what I want my country to be, on the right side of the history. Believing in humanity. So it was not easy through the point of view of internal politics. Of course, some political parties were against. Even, some legal processes were initiated after that. So we will have the internal political debates on that. Internationally, of course, I mean, Israel was not satisfied with it. Everybody knows that. But I think that being a non-permanent member of the Security Council right now and being vocal about a 2-state solution, how can you debate a 2-state solution if you do not recognize one of the countries for that 2-state solution? So that's my, primary point. And I think that in the near future, more countries should recognize Palestine. And I think that the 2-state solution, which is today on the table, is the solution that we have to work on. It's not going to be an easy process. And, a lot of people also in my country said, how can you recognize a country that we do not know the borders of? If we are discussing a 2-state solution, we are always saying that we are discussing the borders from 1967. So we do have a starting point.
But the borders of 1967 are actually further away from being there, with all the illegal settlement, all what the far-right government of Netanyahu is actually exercising in the West Bank. Allow me to ask, what does it mean for a country like Slovenia and other countries right now in this geopolitical system? What does it mean to actually take this step and take steps further to reinstate the 1967 borders and a state of Palestine?
We all know here that, the mass atrocities in Gaza will stop one day. I wish it would happen today, tomorrow, yesterday. The diplomacy behind, the politics behind is trying to do a lot. What we need currently, and the Arab countries are really helpful in this regard, because they took the role of mediator quite seriously, between Hamas and Israel. So Qatar and Egypt and other Arab countries are really trying to negotiate peace. I have to be clear on something as well. Whenever I discuss Palestine, I must not forget to say that Hamas did a horrible crime. And when we discuss, the two-state solution, what we do have today, when Palestine is not even receiving money from Israel, which is collecting taxes, and the state should give some money back to the Palestine. Just a week ago, they finally offered $140 million, I think, or euros, dollars, for the salaries of Palestinian public servants.
But on the other hand, they increased the presence of unofficial armed groups, settlers, illegal settlers in the West Bank.
They said that they are going to build 5,300 new houses, or even 10,000, some are saying. So this is like laughing into my face. I mean, if we are discussing a two-state solution on the borders of 1967, and you are still building the illegal settlements, what are you telling me? 800,000 illegal settlers in West Bank and the borders of 1967. How are we going to solve this puzzle? Are we going to move these 800,000 illegal settlers somewhere else? We have to find a solution. And I think that Palestine deserves and needs to have its own country. I think that United States of America, and maybe even Israel, they do know that they cannot win over Hamas, because every single person they kill in Palestine, you will get two new angry people on the other side, on the Palestinian side. So this is the momentum I think we have to grab, and the international community should do whatever is needed. And at the end, Israel and Palestine would have to recognize each other as well, because this is also a problem, and try to do something for the future of, all the people. I think that every single Palestinian who's displaced right now deserves a country, deserves to come back to the homeland.
The idea of the international community emerged from atrocities that the world witnessed. The idea of the UN, the idea of the Security Council, the international humanitarian law, the protocols of Geneva, they were all part of humans trying to amend mistakes they've done. Is the international community actually one today? What is the international community today? Because that's a question a lot of Gazans are asking. They see a lot of countries supporting them. They see a lot of people supporting them, but not necessarily the leaders of these countries. And then they get one hand raised at the Security Council and stops all the support and stops all these good intentions, this goodwill to stop a war.
Now I think you tackled the essence of the problem. The wars we are seeing around the globe right now, I don't know whether you know, but there are 55 armed conflicts currently going on around the globe. It's not only Ukraine and Gaza, Sudan, Yemen, 55 of them, which is the highest number after the Second World War. Why was United Nations created? To offer peace and security to the whole planet. And this is the only multilateral organization that we do have. That's why we have to nurture it like a diamond. But this organization has a big problem. And this is that the wars are not only fought on field, but also with veto powers inside the Security Council. In the last 25 years, we are debating about the reform of United Nations. Without the P5 countries, the countries with the veto and the permanent seat, just to bear in mind, those are the 5 countries which were the winners in the Second World War. So the first one to preserve peace and security on our planet. Today we see that Security Council is not operative, that whenever we have certain interests, at least 3 countries are there to use the veto powers. And I think that it's time that we start a discussion about a big reform on veto powers. The first initiative was adopted on the proposal of Liechtenstein, its so-called Liechtenstein Initiative. And this initiative was adopted in the General Assembly. And you know that in General Assembly, we do not adopt binding decisions. It's only, a kind of a soft power. So only Security Council can adopt and enact binding decisions. And this Liechtenstein initiative is saying that whenever a veto power is used in the Security Council, this country has to explain to the General Assembly why the veto power was used. So that was the first step. The next couple of steps, which are debating among presidents, prime ministers, diplomats in New York, is as follows: that veto powers should not be used when mass atrocities or genocides are in question. No veto powers. Just voting in the Security Council, the majority prevails. And I think that would be a right step. My proposal would be also that the country which is debated in the Security Council and is a member of the Security Council cannot have a vote. And there is also a fourth proposal, which is also close to my heart, that whenever a veto is used, that would mean that the decision should go to the General Assembly, and then we can debate either relative majority or a two-third majority. If the veto is voted in the General Assembly in favor of that veto, then veto is accepted. If not, overrun. I mean, you have to, go over this veto power.
How can we actually get this reform? What does it take, especially when you say that we do not have statesmen and stateswomen nowadays? Who's going to stand up to the P5 to actually do this reform?
We have to be aware of the fact that without the decision in the Security Council, there is no possibility to reform United Nations. So what do we need? More wise men and more wise women as leaders.
I do believe it is certainly proud. How can we have wiser men and women with this much disinformation?
That's another war we are fighting. A cyber war. It's kind of a hybrid war anyway. We know it's going on. But if we do not fight disinformation and misinformation, our democracies will die. The greatest fear for every single democracy in this planet is disinformation. I do have some hopes, for artificial intelligence. AI is doing a lot of good. It can do a lot of harm. But I really do hope, that AI is going to help us this way. But what do we need to fight disinformation the most? Good education. Disinformation is something that we have to be really afraid of. I can tell you a story from this seat right now. Have you ever heard about Jorge Group? Jorge Group is a group of people in Israel who have 30,000 bots in possession with real photos, real bank accounts, and they have clients from all over the world. And clients are countries, not normal people. And this group can, with all those bots, create so many disinformation and subliminal marketing tools that they do have to influence the voters in various countries. The investigative team of journalists infiltrated in this Jorge Group a year ago, and they found out that the leader of this Jorge Group was openly saying that he had, in those 5 years since this group was established, 31 clients, 31 countries, and that his team was successful in 27 times to win the elections. So what are we talking about? We have to be also aware of the hybrid wars. We have to be alert all the time. We have to know how to see what the real journalism is. When we discuss disinformation is not used only in war purposes. Disinformation today is also used by populists, especially right-wing ones, to win the elections. The populists are spreading fear, not reason and facts, and they want to produce angry people. And angry people click on this information faster. And this information is spread around the globe 6 times faster than a true original story.
And when you correct it, it only reaches 5% of
Correct.
the people.
And people do know that.
We are living a lot of injustices. As you said, humanity is dying.
Yes.
But how can we hope for a better world?
We will have to change drastically. Today, we are not only discussing, the daily problems that we do have. The biggest problem that I do see currently is also being blessed by ignorance. Because people are ignorant in a way, because they don't want to go outside of their bubbles. And if you are inside one bubble and you believe all the conspiracy theories and all the disinformation, It will be hard to change such a person. This is why educational system is so important. If we want to have a peace as a normal state of day, not the war, then we will have to fight poverty, climate change, elitism. And I don't want to sound, like a communist, because I'm not. I'm rich. I can easily admit that. But I know that in the future, especially the rich people will have to learn how to live with less but better. We will have to start collect taxes, bigger taxes from super rich people. There are initiatives already around the globe. Last year, again in Davos, 200 millionaires around the world were asking to get higher taxation because they see that the future for their kids is not okay if we are going to live the life we are used to today. We have to be vocal about it. Honestly, if we want to achieve prosperity and peace, we have to discuss justice. There is no other way to do it. And every single person on this planet can work towards that path. Every single one, not just, executives of big companies from G20 countries. If this is not going to happen, not just humanity will die, which is already dying in front of our eyes, but our civilization is going to die. That's the fact.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
You're more than welcome.